All right, let's jump straight into this. I want you to think about this for a second. Think of stress like the pressure inside a water tank. A little pressure helps water move. Too much pressure, and the system starts to strain. You know, most of us treat stress like it's some sort of personal failing, a character flaw, or just this weird, vague cloud that follows us around and ruins our day. But what if we completely reframed that? What if stress is actually just a mechanical process of pressure?
Welcome to this explainer. We're going to try something a little bit different today. We're actually going to pop the hood and examine the incredible machine that is the human nervous system. We're going to break down exactly what stress is, why it keeps showing up, and most importantly, how to manage it mechanically so you can protect your energy and keep your head clear.
To get us there, we've structured this into a very straightforward 4-part operator's manual for your mind. First, what stress really is. Second, inside the stress machine. Third, how to respond better. And finally, building a calmer identity. It's a completely manageable system, so let's get right to it.
Starting with Section 1, what stress really is. And the subtitle here is absolutely crucial. It's not an enemy, but a protector. The biggest thing to understand right off the bat is that stress is simply your system's response to a demand. That's it. Your body honestly doesn't care if it's a looming work deadline, a tense argument with a friend, or even just a really terrible night of sleep. It doesn't categorize these things. It just asks one single primitive question. Do I need to gear up to deal with this? And if the answer is yes, stress switches on. It is quite literally a built-in survival feature. And once you look at it that way, you start to realize the pattern is simply pressure, response, and recovery. It's the unmanaged stress that's the real drain, not the stress itself. Let's move over to Section 2 and see how this actually works in real time. Inside the stress machine, the chain reaction. We're looking right into the engine block now. It is fascinating to watch this fast, totally automatic chain reaction unfold. Boom. Step 1, a demand appears out of nowhere. Step 2, your brain instantly turns into a security guard, scanning the horizon and asking, is this safe? Step 3, the body activates. It rapidly redirects energy away from long-term projects like digestion and rest, sending it straight to your muscles and your heart. Step 4, your thinking dramatically narrows, simply because your brain is now prioritizing speed over depth. And finally, Step 5, recovery either happens or, well, it doesn't. Think about what's actually happening to your energy here. Stress is exactly like one of those loud, heavy-duty, household backup generators. When the main power gets uncertain, that generator kicks on just to keep the essential systems running. It is built for pure function, absolutely not for comfort. That mobilized energy makes you highly alert and driven for a short burst. But think about a real generator, right? If you leave it running for days on end, the fuel runs low, the noise becomes completely deafening, and eventually the machine breaks down. Stress is highly helpful for a quick burst, but incredibly costly if you leave it running too long. And here is where we so often get tripped up. Two people can face the exact same event. Let's say getting a late-night text from your boss that just says, we need to talk, but they'll have wildly different stress levels. Why? Because you've got the signal, the actual demand, the literal text message, but then you have the story, your mental interpretation. That's the voice saying, I'm going to get fired, I'll disappoint everyone, everything's falling apart. Your body reacts to the meaning you give the event. It's just like having 50 hidden background apps silently draining your phone's battery. The surface event matters, sure, but that massive background processing is what's really chewing through your fuel. Because your brain is dealing with that intense story, it starts prioritizing raw efficiency over elegance. Suddenly, you get tunnel vision. You're jumping to wild conclusions, completely forgetting minor details, and you suddenly have absolutely zero patience. It's why we snap at a slow internet connection or tap our feet at a long line in the grocery store. Imagine trying to carefully read a map to find the most scenic route, but someone is pressing down hard on your shoulder and screaming at you to hurry up. You'd stop looking for the best route and just pick the fastest one to make it stop. That is exactly what stress does to your thought process. Now, I want to pause for a second here, because this is arguably the most important concept we're going to cover in this whole explainer. If that recovery step we talked about earlier doesn't happen, your baseline literally changes. Chronic stress is just like a sinking office chair. At first, you notice it sinking, you feel it, it's uncomfortable, but over time, you just adapt your posture to it. You get so incredibly used to this tight, reactive, slightly panicked state that you completely forget what sitting in a normal, rested position even feels like. You just start to think that being exhausted and permanently on edge is who you are. So, how do we fix the chair? Let's move into Section 3, how to respond better.
The operator's manual. Because we are no longer trying to defeat or shame our nervous system, we are going to learn how to work intelligently with it. The very first essential move is super simple. Stop shouting at the smoke alarm. When stress hits, what do we usually do? We judge ourselves. Why am I reacting this way? I should handle this better. I need to be tougher. But yelling at a smoke alarm doesn't magically put out a fire, right? It just adds more noise to the room. Instead, simply check for smoke. Just say to yourself, okay, my system is activated right now. Creating that tiny little bit of distance instantly stops the self-attack and lets you step right into the calm role of the operator. Once you've recognized the alarm is going off, you have to signal your system that it's actually safe to stand down. And here's the catch. You cannot just command your body to calm down using logic. It doesn't speak logic. You have to give it physical evidence. We're talking slower, deeper breathing, taking a more grounded physical posture, or even simply walking out of a loud, chaotic room. These aren't just cute little wellness tricks. These are literal, biological signals telling that security guard in your brain, hey, the immediate demand is passed, you can go ahead and turn the generator off now.
Now, this right here is where you apply the ultimate upgrade in stress management. Not every stressor is a 5-alarm fire that requires the exact same chaotic, full-body response. You have to slow down and classify the problem. If you look and realize you're dealing with an overload issue, what you really need is to reduce, prioritize, or delegate. If it's an unclear situation causing the stress, you actually need more information, not fast, panicky action. When you match the specific type of stressor to what it actually needs to resolve, you completely stop wasting your precious biological energy.
Because remember, stress itself isn't the villain in the story. Short-term stress, that's just a matchstick. It's a highly useful, very focused, brief burst of flame to help you meet a critical deadline or jump out of the way of a car. Healthy human systems can easily handle waves of short-term stress. The actual mechanical failure only happens with long-term stress, when you build this roaring log fire of endless, stacked demands without leaving any gaps at all for rest or restoration.
Let's wrap this up with our final section, building a calmer identity. This is the ultimate upgrade. It's moving from being a helpless victim of stress to a highly capable operator of your own biology. When you finally wrap your head around stress as a mechanical process, you stop guessing randomly when the daily pressure inevitably builds up. Instead, you can actually pause and ask really powerful, targeted questions. Okay, what is actually happening here? Am I dealing with the actual signal, or am I reacting to the crazy story I've invented? Is this a short burst, or is this a long drain? What physical evidence would help my system recover right now? Asking these questions gives you the ultimate power of choice. You're no longer trapped inside the feeling. You are actively observing it and managing it with precision.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The next time the pressure in your tank really starts building and that internal alarm starts screaming, are you going to waste all your precious energy shouting at the smoke detector? Or will you take a breath, step back, assess the situation, and just look for the fire? You've got the manual for your magnificent machine now. It's time to start operating it. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we will see you next time.